In the world of Vinland Saga, there's a saying that you have no enemies. But what does that really mean? And how can it apply to our lives today? Have you ever wondered why some people seem to be at peace with the world while others are constantly battling with their enemies? In a world filled with conflict and competition, it's easy to feel like we are constantly at war with others. From political rivalries to personal grudges, it can seem like there are enemies lurking around every corner, waiting to pounce on us at any moment. But what if there was a different way to live? What if we could let go of our needs to fight and instead focus on building connections and finding common ground with others? This is the philosophy behind Vinland Saga's famous saying,
お前に敵などいない。誰にも敵などいないんだ。
Thors used to be an elite warrior who ran away from the battlefield to make a life as a farmer and also to raise his family with his wife. But it doesn't work out. Old comrades turn up and drag him back into the war. Like all boys raised in the Nordic culture, his son Thorfinn longs for a glory of the battle. He finds Thor's old battle gears and seizes on a knife. On discovering this, Thors doesn't react like most Nordic fathers. Instead, he tells his son, "You have no enemies. No one in the world is your enemy and there is no one you need to hurt." Here's the result of his philosophy. The desire to no longer kill, to no longer be the Thors the troll, terror of the battlefield gets him, very simply, dead. Seeing this, Thorfinn embarks on a quest for vengeance. He enlists in the mercenary band led by his father's killer, Askeladd, with the premise that this way he will have an opportunity to fight Askeladd and avenge his father. Thors has asked a question of the world, and the world has answered. There is no place for peace and pacifism. There is no place for compassion or mercy. The only way to survive is to treat everyone as your enemies. Answer brutality with even greater brutality. Everyone is a product of violence, the toxic and corrosive warrior's code that demands blood and beheadings. Even Askeladd is a product of such, having grown up as a son of a slave woman, uselessly dreaming that one day his ancestor Artorius will come and rescue him and his mother from a life of dehumanization and terror. So he grows up to inflict violence and pain and suffering for money. For 53 chapters, it appears everyone is right and Thors was wrong. Violence is the sole path, nothing else can resist it, and nothing else is a useful counter to it but more and more of it. The 54th chapter is called as the end of prologue, where Askeladd sacrifices himself for a political plot, and Thorfinn loses the one and only purpose for which he has been living till now. The following arc is arguably the most important for Thorfinn's character development. It takes place 2 years after the ending of the first season of the anime, where Thorfinn is a slave and has been sold to a wealthy landowner in Denmark. In the events of transgressing this arc, it is clear that Thorfinn wants to change. He is haunted by the guilt and the memories of the men he has killed. But the writing in Vinland Saga is so subtle and progresses slowly to give a feeling of authenticity to Thorfinn's redemption arc. He is met with instances where a younger him would have quickly lashed out to kill his opponents, but a more mature Thorfinn begins attempting to resolve conflicts in alternative ways, messing up at times and lashing out, but quickly regretting that this is where a younger version of the protagonist would have reveled in a bloodshed. Thorfinn's development as a character reaches one of its peak when he chooses to be pummeled by an enemy warrior to prevent the invasion of the farm by King Canute. And after what seems like an eternity, with a bloody and swollen face, he declares, as his father did, "I have no enemies at all." Vinland Saga takes place in a violent and unforgiving world where men are judged by their prowess in the battle and killing is glorified. It may seem counterintuitive to pursue a life of peace and non-violence, yet that is exactly what Thorfinn, the series' protagonist, strives for. Despite growing up as a warrior and experiencing the trauma of losing his father to violence, Thorfinn comes to reject the idea that killing is a path to glory or honor. But what does it mean to have no enemies? On one level, the phrase is a literal one. Thorfinn seeks to avoid making enemies and to live in harmony with those around him. This is in contrast to many other characters in series, who view violence as a means of asserting dominance and power over others. However, the philosophy of "you have no enemies" goes beyond mere avoidance of conflict. It is rooted in the idea that all humans are fundamentally connected, and that violence only perpetuates cycles of suffering and pain. By rejecting the notion of the enemies and seeking to empathize with others, Thorfinn is able to break out of this cycle and find a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. Realize that he needed to live a life of peace instead of the one that required him to kill for the sake of killing. He understood that there was no more need for him to kill people or wage war on others. And that was why he became a pacifist who always focused on resolving an issue peacefully instead of taking up arms at the first option. But living as a pacifist in a world of violence is not easy. Thorfinn's journey is a difficult one, marked by personal struggles and setbacks. However, the series also suggests that there is a transformative power in choosing to reject violence and hatred. By cultivating empathy and compassion, Thorfinn is able to connect with others in a way that transcends the boundary of race, culture, and ideologies. This also highlights the difference in the path that Thorfinn and Canute took. Thorfinn decided to live without any enemies because he understood that anyone could live peacefully and prosperously without making enemies out of different people. Meanwhile, Canute bore the curses of the kings, which is the endless need for him to continue to try further his power by killing, betraying, and hurting other people. And both of these characters consciously made their own choices in life as they decided they want to live a life that way. In conclusion, Vinland Saga presents a world filled with violence, competition, and enemies lurking around every corner. However, the philosophy of "you have no enemies" challenges this narrative and shows that there is a different way to live. Again, this philosophy goes beyond mere avoidance of conflict and is rooted in the idea that all humans are fundamentally connected. By empathizing with others and seeking to resolve conflicts peacefully, Thorfinn finds a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. In a world where violence seems to be the norm, Vinland Saga reminds us that there is another way to live, one that prioritizes compassion, empathy, and the pursuit of peace. What are your thoughts about this video? What are your thoughts about the philosophy of "you have no enemies"? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely subscribe and like this video, and also make sure to share this video with your friends. Check out my other 2 videos about different philosophies in anime over here. And that's it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.
金の奴隷が鞭持って金で買った奴隷に囚人面してやがんの。自覚がないだけなのさ。人間はみんな何かの奴隷だ。